I lived under the impression that all these automatic thoughts were me and my brain and like what my brain was saying. And the science actually shows is that this is what you're listening to. And this default mode network literally scans your environment 24/7 and is like, okay, what do I need to survive? What do I need to survive? Like,
Hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And I've got some questions for you, but really quick, are you thinking negatively about yourself? Do you have some negative self-talk going on? Well, Betsy Holmberg is our guest today, and she is the author of Unkind Mind, and she has figured out how to beat that kind of negative self-talk. So, how are you doing today, ma'am?
oh, I'm so good, Keegan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. And I'm just excited to have you on because negative self-talk is one of those things that everyone deals with, right?
Oh my gosh, everyone. I mean, it really kind of starts in adolescence. There are kids that do this, of course, but like, we start to get that feel at high school, middle school, high school, are we fitting in? Are we cool enough? We compare ourselves to others. And then it never goes away.
Yeah.
We're stuck doing it for the rest of our lives. So yeah, I thought it was a really important topic to delve into.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, why don't you give us like a little bit of background about who you are, like what your experience with negative self-talk is like, and what made you to write the book of Unkind Mind?
Yeah, so I've always been an overachiever, if I'm being honest. I've always wanted to like get the perfect grades, and I've always felt that if I could just like get the good grades and get into the good school, my life will be okay. Like I will be safe. And so that kind of haunted me my whole growing up experience. And so I loved school. So I ended up going to college, getting a PhD in psychology, doing the whole deal, and going into the business world, get married, my husband leaves me after 2 years of marriage. My son's 15 months old. And I was in the midst of the family court process. And like my negative self-talk went so low and dark. So it kind of went from the normal stuff of like, oh, look how everyone looks, I should look more like that, and or look how successful everyone else is, like I should be doing that too, I should be working out more, or I should be eating better, all of that like crap we tell ourselves, right? To then like really dark thoughts on like I shouldn't even be here, like I'm not good enough, I'm not a good enough mother, I can't do this, like really bad stuff. And so I went on an antidepressant that really helped. I could explain why that actually helped. Now I know the neuroscience of it. But 3 years later, I still felt like I'm so different from everyone. No one wants to be my friend. Like, how can I do this? Can't do this for my son. And I thought, well, crap. Like, if I'm going to be broken for the rest of my life, let me at least figure out what it is. Because I am an EMDR therapist. I've studied CBT, DBT. Like I know what therapy would be. And I knew that like it would be wonderful. It would help, but it wouldn't hit that voice that's just like constantly banging me in the head. So going into the neuroscience, I figured out where this all was. They've been studying it for about 10 years now. And the second I saw that like what brain network it was, and the biggest thing for me was that it's automatic. We listen to these thoughts. So it's not me feeling like, I can't do this, or, no one's going to like me. It's actually my brain creating that. And then that started the process of me like feeling better than, and where I am now, which is great.
Okay. Wow. First of all, I'm really sorry to hear that you had to experience all that in the first place, but it is one of those things that like we don't get to choose our adventure too much in life. We're really responding and adapting as best as we can. So it sounds like you did the absolute best that you could, and I'm just glad that you did such a wonderful job because now we're here to talk about it. So,
thanks, Keegan.
Of course. One of the things that I have to ask real quick though is, are you still you're not on medication anymore, correct?
No, so I actually titrated off in the process of researching, of even just beginning the research. The book took 5 years to write.
Oh, wow.
So, but as I started to understand, see, like this is where it got for me, and I'm curious if other people can relate to this. I would have the thought like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm failing. I can't do this. This is too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would think, oh, I'm really depressed. Like if I'm having those thoughts, I'm really sad. I'm depressed. I can't do things. And then I would go,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like get a pint of ice cream and I'd watch reality TV and I would be like, I need to take care of myself. Or, you know, if I'm sad, I should be lying on the couch. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like let the thoughts dictate how I felt and like how healthy I was
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Yeah.
And when I started separating from them, because like if these are automatic, this is not
Mm-hmm.
really how I feel. Like these aren't
Mm-hmm.
really, these are things I'm listening to. This isn't my reality. So when I
Mm-hmm.
could start to like hear one of those thoughts and think, oh, that's my, it's called the default mode network. That's my
Uh-huh.
default mode going. Just that separation made
Uh-huh.
it so I didn't do the cascade of like, I have bad mental health. How do I take care of myself?
Huh.
So it helped me shift out of like that cycle,
Mm-hmm.
if you
Okay.
will.
Yeah, and that's one of those really hard cycles to break too, because if it sounds a lot like my negative self-talk whenever I get into one of those loops, because essentially that's what it is, right? It's a loop of, oh, I feel bad, and then, oh, I feel bad about feeling bad. Oh, I feel bad about feeling bad for feeling bad in the first place. Oh, I feel bad about feeling bad for feeling bad for feeling bad about that feeling bad, and then it just goes on, right? And
Yeah.
it's one of those also that you, like you said, I've been able to kind of be like, oh, that's not me, but there's a part of me that's still doing it. And you're calling it the default mode network. So why do you
Yeah.
call it the default mode? Because I'm assuming it has to do with survival, right?
Yeah, so this is what the scientists called it. How it actually started was there was this science group that were just doing fMRI studies of
Mm-hmm.
people, and they like put them in a protocol to study like something verbal or mathematics. And then
Uh-huh.
in between the different segments, and the person was just hanging out in the fMRI machine, they saw
Mm-hmm.
that these same areas lit up. And like
Hmm.
consistently for every single person. And they're like, well, this is weird. And so they were like, hey, what are you thinking about? And they're like, nothing. And they're like, huh. And so they went around to like a bunch of other research groups and said, are you seeing this in like all your stuff? And then everyone pulled their back data and were like, yeah, we actually see that too. And so they're like,
Huh.
oh, this must just be the default mode of the brain. And they're like, this must be like basic functioning of like how we integrate different senses. I mean, they started out with these different theories. This was like
Mm-hmm.
probably 12 years ago now.
Okay.
And now we've gotten to a much better understanding of when it's working and how it sounds and this and that. And the
Huh.
interesting thing is it buried a little deeper in the brain. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
medial prefrontal cortex and then some other
Mm.
areas further in the back.
Uh-huh.
And this is an area we share with other mammals. And like you can just see from an animal perspective, an evolutionary perspective, how our brain grew. Like this has
Mm-hmm.
been around for a while. We
Okay.
have another section of our prefrontal cortex called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which sits right out
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yep.
And this is only primates.
Gotcha.
This is just us. And so this area is our second thought network. And so when we
Huh.
focus on something, like if we're focusing
Uh-huh.
on this conversation or we're doing a math problem or we're listening to a friend, we're
Mm-hmm.
using our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, aka our central executive network.
Okay.
So this is to say that I lived under the impression that all these automatic thoughts were me and my brain and like what my brain was saying
Mm-hmm.
and who I was, my personality. And what the science actually shows is that this is what you're listening to. And
Hmm.
it goes back to when we were in hunter gatherers, we were in clans, and
Uh-huh.
in order to be part of the, like in order to stay alive, you had to fit
Mm.
into the clan. You had to stay
Yeah.
safe. So whatever that took, right?
Uh-huh.
So this default mode network literally scans your environment 24/7 and is like, okay, what do I need to survive? What do I need to survive? Like
Mm.
it compares you to everyone else.
Yeah.
It's looking for in groups and out groups.
Mm.
And because it's more survivalist, like it's deeply connected to our stress system as well,
Mm.
it has an alarm So it's not like positive, like, you got this. No, it's going to be like, oh my God, that person is doing X more things. They're like, you're going to die or you're going to end up homeless. Like my entire adolescence, I was convinced I was going to be homeless. And people were like, what are you talking about? But that's where the default mode goes. So it thinks it's keeping you safe by putting you down. It thinks it's like pointing out everything that could go wrong. And then, but the problem is once you fix whatever that thing is, it's going to find something else because it's an alert system, right?
Yeah.
So like, even if you fix that one thing, and people always find this in life, like, you know, you finally get the house or like you get the relationship and then you're like, wait, I'm still kind of unhappy. Like I'm still me, right? Because the default mode is scanning for, okay, what's the next threat? What are we going to be worried about? And so getting to understand that personality of the default mode and like what it thinks it's doing, I was able to then really be like, oh, okay, I really don't have to listen to this thing. Like this thing's off.
Gotcha. Wow, that is really, really fascinating. And I've got to say, like, it makes a lot of sense because everything that you're talking about has always been that internal voice of sorts. And that's one of the things I do have to ask real quick is the inner monologue thing. Like, do you actually hear that voice, correct?
That's the default mode.
Okay.
Unless you're being purposeful with your inner monologue, which is a different thing. So like going to bed is a really hard time because you need the default mode to uncouple in order to fall asleep. It's literally part of the falling asleep process. But that's exactly when the DMN loves to run, right? So like that's when we're worried about everything. So I like purposefully think of something boring that I need to like if I need to compose an article or I need to like I'll think of something boring and focus on that because I know that's using my central executive network and it shuts down the DMN. So it's still in the thoughts, but I'm choosing what I'm thinking on.
Gotcha. Okay. So it also sounds a lot like generalized anxiety because well, whenever I was growing up, that was one of the things that I was diagnosed with. And I was pumped full of Xanax for years. And then, of course, my alcohol addiction took off after I got off the Xanax and everything. So I just had a lot of it was negative self-talk in a lot of different ways. But there's been root causes all over the place. And I think one of the things that you talked about earlier, you said a key word, and it was personality. So personality of the default mode network, right? So you're not your thoughts. So who is your thoughts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, this is the underpinnings of the vast majority of mental health conditions. So they've run these studies as well, which is super fascinating, that people with like severe major depressive disorder have a very strong hyper-connected DMN. So like, you know, our brains are just like muscles. And so if the things you use get very strong, the things you don't use get weak or even like die off. So when we are in like a major depressive episode, this is running all the time and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And so it's kind of like, what flavor are you going to pick at the ice cream shop? So you've got depression is one loop. Anxiety is another loop. Again, strong DMN. OCD, another loop. But it's always the DMN that's driving this. And that's where, you know, these disorders can feel bigger than us because when that gets strong, so not to make this too complicated, but we have a third section of this called the salience network. And it's literally that. It's like, what's salient? What do we care about? And so the salience network will start to prioritize DMN thoughts all the time. Like, and the more it prioritizes that, the more you're stuck in it. And this was one of the things that really helped heal me from this I'm so broken after my divorce moment was that I thought, oh shit, like my DMN is just like Arnold Schwarzenegger right now. And like my CEN, you know, is not like, it is very skinny. And like, so this isn't my personality. This isn't some fault. And like, I can even take this out of the context of this being some sort of, you know, clinically diagnosed mental health disorder. I can see this as, this is just a very strong network and I need to do whatever I can to rebalance it. So like SSRIs
Uh-huh.
functionally like start to decouple the DMN, and that's
Mm.
where when I took Zoloft, I just felt like I could suddenly breathe again, and I
Uh-huh.
suddenly wasn't ruminating all the time, and like things didn't
Mm.
seem quite as bad, and it's because it got rid of the grip that the DMN had on my life.
Huh.
Addiction is another interesting one because
Mm-hmm.
alcohol disrupts the functional connectivity of the DMN. And
Yeah,
that's
kind
why
of.
it's right. And that's why it's so appealing. I mean, they have the science on it. It like,
Uh-huh.
because it suddenly we're less self-conscious. We're not thinking what everyone's thinking about us. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's how it has become such a big part of our society, is because it was one of the
Mm-hmm.
first ways to stop the DMN without knowing what the DMN was, you know? It works. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're always, well, I say weird, but no, really, it was my personal experience. I was always looking to shut it up, no matter what.
Yes.
Like, I didn't care what it was, just give it to me. I will take it. I will, if it gives me 5 minutes of peace, I'll do it. You know, and that was the thing, is that I didn't know how to describe that to anyone else. It was no matter what I was doing, my brain would not shut up. It would not leave me alone. I'm always less than, I'm worthless, and it was just something that I didn't know how to portray that. And that in my household, I didn't really have the ability to express myself, and I didn't have the knowledge or the emotional intelligence to even know what emotions were beyond happy, angry, hungry, and horny. You know,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so and so it was really like, for me, my emotional journey really started whenever I got into rehab. Like, unfortunately, because that's whenever I learned emotional intelligence, that's whenever all my healing really started, was in therapy, you know?
I
So it
so get
was,
it. Totally.
yeah, and it was because I had to figure out like who I was, and that there's more than just being happy and sad and angry, you know?
And you
So,
know what I love about what you shared is it hits on something we all do, which is it feels like you're trying to get away from yourself. You're
mm-hmm,
like, and that's where we get to that place of I hate myself. I don't want to
mm-hmm,
be near, I need to escape myself. I need distractions. I need
mm-hmm,
alcohol. I need just, can I hang out with friends? Like anything to escape myself. And I think we all have that feeling where, I mean, what is that that old quote of like, we would rather do anything than sit alone in a room by ourselves for 15 minutes without anything to
mm-hmm,
do.
yeah.
And it's because if we identify with this DMN, the DMN is nasty. Like, I mean, the first 2 weeks I did it, I was like, I started really like watching what it was saying. Like, those people have lives and you don't. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm,
you make bad decisions, you do this and that. I
mm-hmm,
mean, it's like, and so if it makes us hate ourselves, and so being able to separate from it and say, whoa, this is evolutionary, this
mm-hmm,
belongs in our caveman days, this doesn't fit modern society anymore, like that's
mm-hmm.
why it's glitching. Because like, we were supposed to be in clans of 150 people max, and like we'd see those same people for our entire lives. And
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, you're thrown into a world where you meet 150 people in one day, and you're around
Mm-hmm.
people all the time. There are 5,000 different norms, like, and what to do and how to be and what's successful and what's not. And like, it's too much. Our
Uh-huh.
DMN can't handle it. And we then take that to be, I'm bad, I suck, I need to get away from myself. And so the more we all understand this science to say, oh, no, don't listen to that voice. Like, put it in a loincloth and put it in a cave. Like, that's not you. Like, then because, I mean, the better people will be able to, like, it'll help people recover from,
Mm-hmm.
mental health episodes. We're all going to have them throughout our whole lives. Life is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this can help us separate and heal, hopefully, a little more quickly.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that is for sure. And I think you're doing something wonderful there, because you're separating the I from self in a sorts, right? So I say this because I refer to myself as we. I refer to myself as third person. And while I was at Podcast Movement earlier last week, I was speaking to someone about it, and they asked me why. And I said, well, I never really thought about it, but if I had to say it, it was because I had trauma around the word I, because I was always less than. I was always
Mm,
worthless. I was never good enough. I was always the outcast. I was the black sheep. I was never just accepted. I was always rejected. So it was one of those things that I turned, like, if I'm speaking to myself, and I speak out loud a lot. So if I needed to motivate myself, I'd say, all right, let's go do this. Like, we're going to go do this. So it was like, kind of, I was trying to be my own best friend without being my own best friend at the time,
I
you
love
know?
that. Yeah.
So, and I always felt like I was just a little, people are going to think I'm schizophrenic because I talk to myself, because I'm trying to be my own best friend in a sorts, you know? But you're hitting on something that is still just spot on with, you don't necessarily know you, in a sense, right? Because the I is different than what we feel like sometimes. And real quick, there's an artist, they're called Seer, Syr, and they have a song called Lay of the Ashes, and it has some lyrics in there that I think you would really resonate with.
Oh, cool.
So real quick, it's like, I think the whole song you would just resonate with, but so the quiet that you sought now suffocates instead, forcing you to hear the very heart that you are breaking. What whispered words do you hear in a voice you do not know? Could the lies that you believe be a fear of the unknown? If you don't know who you are, then who is it that you hate? All the lies that swallow you whole don't even know your name.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
checking out that song. That is fantastic. Okay, between the song lyrics and you sharing your healing journey, there's a point in there that is so powerful for the audience, which is that, like, so for you, for healing, it was, I'm sorry for my dog barking. He's a Shih
It's
Tzu,
okay.
but he's crazy. Um, so that it was getting into your feelings, and
Mm-hmm.
so this is like our hack for healing any of these mental disorders, because a lot of these mental disorders are thought disorders, and what they show is that so to geek out a little, the DMN is very much related to the enteric nervous system. So we
Okay.
actually have two more brains in our body. One, we've heard about the gut brain. You know, everyone
Yep.
talks a lot about that, but that has a lot of connections with the DMN. So your
Uh,
stress system, your gut, and your DMN, they're like a little party of how do we keep you safe and survive in a threatening, dangerous world. So
uh-huh.
it's why we get stressed. It's why we get butterflies in the stomach. It's why we freak out, right?
Uh-huh.
But we have another nervous system around our heart,
Mm.
and that they're like just starting to get to know, which makes sense because
Mm-hmm.
it like you can do a heart transplant and that heart can keep beating, so it has its own neurons that like maintain the beating and everything of that heart. But
Uh-huh.
that nervous system, that brain, connects with your central executive network.
Hmm.
And originally people were like, this is so weird, like why would you connect something as foundational as heart beating to the most,
Ooh.
sophisticated part of the brain? But
Hmm.
if you think about it, like,
Mm-hmm.
it actually means that the things that we love are
Mm-hmm.
very easy to focus on. So if, like, in that first crush where you just like thought they were amazing, and then you couldn't not focus on them, like even if you were in
Uh-huh.
class together, like you could feel their presence. It was really hard to focus on what the teacher was saying. You noticed
Yep.
every single thing they were doing. And
Uh-huh.
so if it's something that we care about, then we can focus on it. And so
Hmm.
to get out of this thought pattern and the spirals and all this negative crap we say to ourselves all day long, we
Uh-huh.
get into our heart, we get into our bodies, we get into our feelings. And that is probably our more true experience of ourselves than honestly the crap that our brains are putting out for us. So your healing journey is beautifully, it captures exactly that, of moving from all of that thinking to like, oh wait, no, really, how do I feel? And where am I right now? And if I can center with that, then this will shut up, because it's an either or. And you're either in it, or you're either listening to your DMN, or you're focused with your CEN on something else. And so
Huh.
that's really cool that you shared that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing all that, because that was really insightful. And it makes me think of something that kind of goes along with that, because it makes sense that the heart itself would have its own nervous system of a sorts, because people can die from a broken heart, right? So,
Yes, totally.
and
Great
that's another.
example.
And another thing is too, whenever, like, for example, whenever I've experienced social rejection or just rejection from a crush, that or heartbreak, that physical pain, it is in the chest for me. And it is something that has sent me to the hospital because of having a panic attack, because I have a pain in my chest and I don't know what it is. It
Mm-hmm.
was bad. Um, but one of the things that kind of sticks out to me, though, is that so if our gut has one, and it's more along the lines of the default mode network, and our heart has one, but it's more around the CEN, then well, I said that right?
Yeah, you
Does
did
the
perfect.
Okay, sweet. Then what I'm kind of feeling is that our guts is going to be like the love, the things that are easy to notice, the things that are kind of there, and our heart is going to be centered around something that we're passionate about, right? Because passion is something that we're willing to hurt for. So we have to be
Mm,
intentional with what we choose to be passionate about. Otherwise, we're just lusting after it, right?
yes. Yes. And what I've always found with my breakups is like there's that layer that's the heart hurting
Mm-hmm.
and the pain and the emotional pain and this and that is that will kick your butt no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that adds on top of it is then the DMN is like we've been kicked out of the clan. So this was me
Mm.
and my divorce in the biggest way possible. I mean, divorce is
Mm-hmm.
like the worst because
Yeah.
you've literally created a clan with this person. You've like tied yourself legally. You think like, oh, this is my
Mm-hmm.
person now for the rest of my life. And then it's like, psych, no, you don't have a clan anymore. Like
Yep.
your most foundational clan can leave. And, and if it's family members where there's trauma involved, like it's that same
Mm-hmm.
thing of like my foundational clan is
Mm-hmm.
dangerous and like the DMN just blows up on that and will
Mm.
go all sorts of places. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's it's knowing that so that we don't add the DMN pain to and suffering to an already hard problem. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
that Buddhist quote of like, we all have pain, but suffering is
Mm-hmm.
optional.
Yeah.
And so the more we can separate from that DMN and take care of ourselves and be in
Mm-hmm.
our feelings, but also love ourselves through it by trying to shut down the DMN, it's hard. There are
Mm-hmm.
times where we can't.
Yeah.
Like just everyone know that like if you're stressed, if you're tired, if you're emotional, like the brain shuts down the CEN. It goes into a survival mode. So just like we shut
Mm.
down our GI system or our reproductive system, like we shut the CEN down too. It's considered
Mm-hmm.
peripheral. So we're
Huh.
stuck listening to our DMN. And
Uh.
so those are the times when I've been listening to it, I'm like, wow, like that's nasty. But at least I know it's the DMN. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm stuck listening to this. And that's when you try to do anything to like
Mm-hmm.
try to get away from it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's when like I'll binge a show. I'll be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine. If you are going to be there and I can't turn you off through normal ways, like I will just really distract myself. But at least now I know that that thought process is not
Mm-hmm.
real
Mm-hmm.
and that helps a
Oh.
really hard times.
Yeah. And I think you're hitting on something that we kind of talk about in recovery rooms, but we don't really know why we're talking about it, mind you. So, what you're bringing to mind is essentially something where, like in recovery rooms, if we're trying to avoid triggers or if we're trying to reset ourselves, trying to reground ourselves, one of these things is to halt. Or I like to add a second H, so it would be halt. But the thing is, HALT usually stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So, am I feeling one of these things? And if I'm feeling hungry, I need to eat a little snack. If I'm feeling angry, maybe I need to find a way to calm down. Maybe I need to find out what the root of my anger actually is, because
Yeah.
it's a secondary emotion, right? So then, am I lonely? Do I need to make connection with someone? Am I just feeling like I'm less than for some reason? Or am I tired? Do I need a little bit of a nap? Do I need like a nervous system reset of sorts? You know? So
No, it's
it's,
so true. That's exactly those are like the prime conditions for the DMN to take over. It's like you like seeded the garden and like you put the compost out and the fertilizer. It's like the DMN will just go with all of those. That makes so much sense. Yeah, I love that.
yeah,
Oh,
so, yeah, so halt. It's whenever things start to get a little overwhelming if I halt, I can do that little quick assessment, and and again, I added the extra H for horny because again, that was one of those things that it will throw people for a loop really fast, really easily, just because that's not your right state of mind either, you know?
Yes. And
So,
connection is such an important part of it.
mhm,
Because like we've used and that's something I feel like our modern world has a major deficit in, and is
mm,
one of the reasons our DMNs are glitching as much as they are right now, is because
uh-huh,
we used to be able to see each other and always like get feedback on like how
mhm,
we're doing and how everything's going. And
yep,
if your DMN is going off and you talk to a friend and you're like, I feel like shit for this reason, then your friend's like, no, you are awesome, you got it.
uh-huh,
Like our connections give us a checks and balance to let our DMN know, like, no, that's
mm,
wrong, you're not right, like that's
uh,
bullshit, don't listen to it.
uh-huh,
And like that's the power of friendship, and why it feels so good when you've like shared something. This is often talk
mhm,
therapy too, when you expose one of these awful things the DMN has been telling you for years, and then the
mhm,
person is like, oh, but that's not true, no, you're
mhm.
wonderful and you're this, and like you can look at it this way, and suddenly it's like, psych, DMN, like you were wrong. And it takes away some of its power, so
Yeah.
connection is a huge piece of how we can feel better. And if we're just like scrolling through social media and looking at all
Mhm.
these perfect people that seem like they're so successful and killing it, like
Mhm.
that's not that same interaction that our
Mhm.
DMN is used to, and so it helps our DMN get even stronger to live in
Yeah.
that state. Yeah.
Huh. So all of this is kind of really tying in together a whole bunch of past conversations that I've had. So hear me out. I've spoken with Clay Moffat, and he was telling me all about trust and how to rebuild it with others, but more importantly with self. And one of the things that he said was that whenever we are trying to say talk well about ourselves and we're having a hard time with it, so like a compliment, right? Because a lot of people have a hard time accepting compliments. But he said, "Well, would you turn away a gift if someone were to give it to you?" I said, "No," and he said, "Well, that's a compliment, so you got to take it." And I was like, "Well, first of all, damn." But what he was saying was that if someone gives me the compliment of like, "Hey, I'm doing well," I'll sit there and I'll tell myself, "No, I'm not." But certain people can sit there and tell me that, and it rings a bell for me. While certain people inside of my circle can say the same thing, and it doesn't have an effect. So, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
That's really interesting.
and so one of those things is that it the person that I deems have that they have more authority in that regard, it's usually someone on the outer circle of where I'm having my people. So then someone else told me that it takes an incredible amount of information to override the subconscious in its normal thinking. So that right there is telling me that we have to have outside validation from sources that we deem not within our circle to really overprogram our DMN in the sorts,
Hmm.
right? But how do we do that
And
if we're not being our own best friend?
totally. And like just that turn of phrase is something we need to also get out of all of our vocabulary, which is like, this is
Mm.
in my subconscious. This is like, my subconscious. No,
Mhm.
this is your default mode network. Like your subconscious isn't like this thing that's like, I hate myself, and like, I've always been
Mm.
broken, and like I'm always wrong. And I think this whole concept of an subconscious has kept a lot
Mhm.
of us kind of weighed down with like, oh my,
Mhm.
I feel I'm worthless in my subconscious. Like,
Mhm.
no, there is no subconscious. It's just your DMN spouting crap.
Mm.
And it's not as scary and hard to heal. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to see it as like, oh, but I don't know, my subconscious might come out again and tell me I'm really sucky. Like I kind of
Yeah.
always lived in fear of that. Like
Uh-huh.
underneath, I'm always insecure, so I gotta like keep trying to heal. And it's like,
Mm.
oh no, like it's stupider, it's simpler.
Uh.
We can actually just like shut it down.
Uh-huh.
So that's, yeah.
Okay. Huh. So, can I challenge you with the question of what if our subconscious was actually our body?
So you know what, I love that, because there is another side that is more automatic, that is great at sensing stuff, which is our central nervous system. and like
Okay.
and like, you know, all of those nerves. So like they will
Mm.
respond to stuff before we even know anything's happened, and like we'll
Yeah.
get a, you know, a stress response, or we'll feel
Uh-huh.
comfortable and not even know why.
Mhm.
So yeah, like there is an automaticity to a lot of our central nervous system that you
Mhm.
could say is the subconscious, but with our history, with our psychology history of talk
Mhm.
therapy and Freud and lying on a couch and, you know, thinking the subconscious is dreams and this and that, like
Uh-huh.
that's all very chit chatty DMN shit.
Yeah.
And so I love that concept of where you're going, which is that you can almost say our subconscious more is, what are you feeling? And
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
where are your emotions? That's more truly you than
Mm.
any of these thoughts that come up.
Okay. So, how do you suggest that someone sit there and cultivate the good thoughts, the intentional thoughts, I guess, would be where we're going, right? If the DMN is sitting there always telling us, this is our default programming, we must execute, how do we interrupt it and how do we tell it, nah, we're going to go this way instead?
Yeah, there are about 1,000 different hacks. So
Wow.
well, I mean, like you know, it's just how, like, any way we can shift our life is a way that we
uh,
can move into this. So an
mm,
exercise I love doing with people is to walk through what are the things loved in life, from like when they were really little to being like middle, you know, middle childhood, adolescence,
mm-hmm,
now whatever it is. And so to
mm-hmm,
start to get that resonance of like, what do I really love? Like, what do
mm-hmm,
I care about? And then to build
mm,
more of that into your life, whatever way
mm,
possible. Like someone I walked through this with just loves the ocean, loves
uh-huh,
beaches, loves, and so for her, it wasn't like, oh, she has to go, you know, move and be near an ocean, but she,
mm-hmm,
you know, brought more paintings in that had
mm,
oceans in them. She listened to ocean sounds while she was working to help her
huh,
focus. So she just made it more like prevalent in her
uh-huh,
life, just in like little cues, which
huh,
brought her more into that center. And
hmm,
so anything that you love gets you into your CEN. So that's great.
uh,
There is just the basic of recognizing it, being like, oh, it's going, and then shifting
mm-hmm,
it. So it's to
mm,
focus on anything. You can focus on like, what color are the leaves outside? Like,
uh-huh,
you know, focus on how your dog feels. I mean, all of
mm-hmm,
that mindfulness stuff is this. P.S. So is meditation. And that's why
mm-hmm.
people find meditation so damn hard, is the whole idea is like, you just let your thoughts go. Like, don't listen to them, you know, let them go. AKA, don't listen to your DMN. And then breathe,
Yeah.
focus on your breath, focus on a mantra, like focus on something. Like that's
Mhm.
all meditation is
Mhm.
ignoring your DMN and shifting into your CEN. And that's why people
Mhm.
find it so effortful, because we're used to just habitually listening to this thing and not
Mhm.
even questioning it. Um,
Yeah.
so it's anything that helps you move from just going on autopilot, listening to like
Mhm.
being in the present moment, or meditating, or
Mhm.
doing something you love, or focusing on someone you love. Like
Mhm.
whatever achieves that,
Uh-huh.
that's good.
Huh. That's really interesting. That makes me think that a lot of it kind of circles back to that song, like, if you don't know who you are, then why do you hate you, you know? And that
Yes.
brings me to kind of what I've been doing lately. I've been working on a self-discovery book of sorts, if you will, like a little workbook just for myself. I may like put it out there for others just to see how it works, but my thing is that I have ADHD, possibly ADHD, and I didn't know that for a while because, and I still am not officially diagnosed, but I have it in my DNA, so might as well be there, right?
Yeah.
So, one of those things is that whenever I was young, I always kind of felt like I had it, but I was always like dismissed about it, so never treated for it. So that made me start to think that I was weird, and I was kind of like, all right, well, so neurodivergence growing up, I'm always getting rejected because I'm always annoying people, so on and so forth. And then getting into teenage years, I'm labeled with depression, and so I get put on antidepressants, and then they actually turn me into a robot. I get off of them, and then go years with just generalized anxiety after that. Then I turn into alcohol for 10 years, and then now I am here 4 years later, figuring out all this other stuff that I'm like, okay, well, we're undoing all that. And what it really boils down to is I don't know who I am. I've been masking for
Mm,
so long that it
yes.
is one of those things that I've been people pleasing. I've been a chameleon for so long that
Yes.
I'm figuring out what is it that I want? What is it that I need? What is it that I've been missing this whole
And
time, you
that is
know?
what the DMN wants to do more than anything, is mask you, chameleon you, like fit you into a
Mm,
box. And this is where my heart goes out to all of everyone in their differences, because everyone's got their own, but like the LGBTQ population, neurodivergent populations, all of these populations that aren't the standard norm, like,
mm-hmm,
their DMNs will be like, you're not right. You're
mm-hmm,
different. You're abnormal. You don't belong. Like, you have to work your butt off to fit in for
mm-hmm,
the rest of your life. And that leads to so much self-hate. Like, then
mm-hmm.
I'm wrong.
Yep.
And I want to, like, it's like, fuck off, DMN. Like, none of these people are wrong. Like,
Mm-hmm,
that's what the beauty of this planet is all of our differences and how we
mm-hmm,
are all these unique people. And we all bring something to the table. We don't all have to fit into a fucking mold. And so
mm-hmm.
I don't know, I get mad because it sounds like us. This thing has such a hold over our lives and
Mm-hmm,
who we feel we are and how we treat ourselves. And so, like, I love that project. I
mm-hmm,
love it. It is such a, like, DMN buster to be like, I am going to figure out who I am and what I like.
mm-hmm,
And I think the interesting thing is this: if you look at all the people around, it's like, who are your favorite people, and who
mm-hmm.
you love, and it's always the people that are the most unique. This is for me, at
Huh.
least. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but like, if someone is really different, like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel I can trust them more. It gets back to the
Mm-hmm.
trust thing, because I'm like, oh, they're more authentic, so I can trust that
Mm.
whatever they're sharing with me, and however
Uh-huh.
I'm seeing them receive me, is true.
Uh-huh.
They actually, like, really like me, or
Huh.
they don't, and that's fine. But like, if someone is fake, if someone is doing the
Mm-hmm.
fitting in and is trying to,
Uh-huh.
and they're being nice, you
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they really like you. You don't know if you can really
No.
trust them. So
Mm-mm.
we have to embrace our differences. We have to embrace what makes us us. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the most beautiful thing we can do in life, is to connect with, what do I love? Who am
Mm-hmm.
I? Like, what do I want to go out and love in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I want to
Yeah.
protect animals? Do I want to play tennis? Do I want to, do friendship bracelets? It doesn't matter, but just be
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I love that. Just be you. And I think that that's one of the things that just so many people have a hard time doing because we don't fit in to that
Yes.
social norm. And I think that's why maybe community is such a big thing for those communities because they fit in. They aren't abnormal. They are able to have their DMN shut up for a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I'm really introverted. My father's really introverted. We're like total loners in our family, and like, the whole growing up process was so weird, because like,
Uh-huh.
everyone just had these like groups of friends, and I didn't know how to
Mm-hmm.
do any of that. Like, I just wanted to go
Mm.
read by myself, and my mom was like, "Does she like need friends? Do I need to like switch schools? Is she okay?"
Oh
And
no.
like, I knew I was always so different. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what seeing all this science is like, you know what? No, I'm fine. It's just, I prefer a clan of a dog, two fish, and
Mm-hmm.
like 3 people. Like, I don't want a huge clan. I'm a little clan person. And like, that helped me heal a lot and stop caring so much that everyone else is
Mm-hmm.
out at a party and I didn't get invited. It's like, you know what? I wouldn't have wanted to go anyways. So it's fine. I got my clan with my
Yeah.
geriatric goldfish. Yeah.
uh, I think being able to recognize that your clan is unique and individual in its own right is very much the same in itself because it's kind of like we are individuals, our clan is an individual clan, and so on and so forth. But one of the things that you mentioned about people being weird or different, individual, unique. So, do you know the etymology of the? I said that word wrong. I always say it wrong. But do you know
I got
the
it.
word weird comes from?
Where?
So it's an old English, so it means fate or destiny. So if you're calling someone acting weird, you're essentially saying you're creating your own destiny. You are.
I love this. Yes. That is the most awesome thing ever. And you're
Mhm.
not doing the clan thing, which then we can't distinguish who you really are because you're just doing the mold of whatever you're supposed to do. But that
Yep.
weird person, yeah,
Mhm.
they're following their North Star. That's really
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. And so that's why it's so hard to stick true to yourself, because sometimes you have to be outside of the social norms, you know. But
Yeah.
that's where you may not fit in with your clan, but there's other clans to find, right?
For me, social situations, especially like social situations, like if it's a
Mhm.
party for all the school parents, like a group of
Mm.
people that you
Uh-huh.
really like don't have anything in common with, those always
Uh-huh.
freak me out. I used to feel that with work when you go into like one of these like big conventions and then you're meeting all these random people. And it really helped to think like, yes, I'm nervous right now and I'm feeling very anxious about like, how am I going to connect with these people? Are they going to think
Mhm.
so this is what my brain used to go is like, am I funny enough? Am I interesting enough? Are they going to want to be talking to someone else? Like, I know I'm super boring. I hang out with the dog all day long. Like, I
Mm.
don't have, I don't have that life to like, I don't have all those funny stories, like all that
Mhm.
stuff. And it helped me to think, that's just my DMN. So my DMN's sitting here wondering what their DMN is thinking when their DMN is also going off on all the ways they need to be fitting in. And so like we
Mm.
can just like let this whole charade go, because like that helped me to think, okay, their DMNs are DMNing too. I'm not the
Mm.
only one with one of these. And like we're all anxious and we're all trying to make this work. And you know what? And if it felt uncomfy, fuck it. Like it's fine.
Mhm.
My DMN is flaring. It's
Mhm.
very hypersensitive to social stuff, and then I can let that
Mhm.
go. Like it's fine.
Yeah. And see, one of the things that you just brought up was that discomfort. And I find that that discomfort feeling, especially in social situations, comes to actually be showing me, hey, I'm kind of in the right area because I'm disrupting my DMN,
Mm.
because I'm doing the opposite of what it's telling me to do. That's where I'm getting stretched. That's where it's telling me, like, hey, you shouldn't be raising your hand to speak at this convention for whatever weird reason. And it's like, I did. Now I'm going on stage for some reason. Here we go. And like
But you did it
that,
anyways, and that's like
yeah,
so cool. I love that. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that there's real power in being discomfort, like uncomfortable, but I don't think it's somewhere that someone should actively stay in.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that it's good to test the waters. It's good to sit there and get that outside validation whenever things go right. But it's also really important to have that support structure around whenever things don't go necessarily right. They're sitting there saying, like, hey, that's not on you. That's just situation or whatever. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And to give yourself the balance of like, so then what does the self love side of this look like? For me,
Mm,
it's taking a bath. And like, so,
yeah.
we have to balance the challenges of being out there with then all of those things that really build us up as people and make us feel better and safer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Real quick, we are near the end of this episode, but I've got to ask, do you think that we could see you on in the future? Because this is an amazing conversation, and I would love to see how many other rabbit holes we can go down.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. We should totally put another
Sweet.
one on the books because this was so fun.
Awesome. I love it.
Good.
And maybe you'll have another book out, or some really good examples for us next time, right? Um,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I put one book
I'm
out.
just joking.
One book took
Yeah.
5 years, so I don't, I don't know how soon we're gonna do the next one. Like, we're gonna
Uh,
stick with this one for a little bit. Yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough. But that's the thing, is that it took so long. We'll be able to dive into it time and time again for a good while.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
in the meantime, I do have a game ready to go if you're ready to play.
Woohoo! Let's do it.
All right. So this one is called Default or Deliberate. The rules are simple. I'll read a thought, and Betsy is going to decide if it's just survival brain chatter from the default mode network, or if it's conscious, intentional thought.
Okay.
So, here we go. First up, I'm always behind everyone else.
DMN for all day long.
All right. Next up, I choose to be kind to myself today.
CN.
Awesome. I am enough, just as I am.
CN.
Okay.
DMN would never give you props, ever.
Ooh, okay. Everyone else has it figured out except me.
DMN.
If I let my guard down, I'll get hurt.
DMN.
Okay. The Wi-Fi is down. My life is ruined.
DMN.
Okay. I'm ugly when I yawn.
DMN.
Okay. It's okay to rest. I don't need to earn my worth.
CN.
Okay. And I'm learning, even if it's messy.
CEN.
All right. I got a couple more. Let's see. If I mess up, I'll lose everything.
DMN.
Got it. Let's see. And then... Ooh, they didn't text me back. I must have said something stupid.
DMN. Sounds just like something I would say.
I
Yep.
totally understand. And then, last up, maybe aliens already know the secret to happiness.
CEN. I think that takes some thought
Huh.
process to try to think through an alien civilization and where they would be. Yeah, and it's not self-focused. DMN's very self-oriented. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well,
Cool.
so I just have to say for playing, I already forgot the name, default or deliberate. So for playing default or deliberate and showing us what it means to untangle thoughts, you have earned the honorary title of the Thought Untangler for retrieving sanity.
Yay! I love it.
Thank you very
Eat
much,
that,
Betsy.
DMN.
Real quick, where can people find you if they're looking to get your book or if they're just trying to figure out what they can do for themselves?
You got it. So my book is Unkind Mind. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all those places. It's got audio and things like that. So however you like to do your books. And you can find me on my website. It's betsyholmberg.com. I'm on Instagram. I don't post a lot. This whole thing still confounds me. I should do TikTok. I'm not. I don't know. So, but I also write articles for Psychology Today. So if you look up Betsy Holmberg on Psychology Today, you can find more musings on all of this stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you not only just did a book, you continuously make content like that to help people with their inner workings and figuring out who they actually are and that it's okay to just be them.
Yes. We all need to just be us. Exactly. Yeah.
Where exactly do you see yourself going in the future for Unkind Mind?
So far where this is going, I have a few different directions. One is to bring this to the clinical and therapist population so that they can start to shift how they talk about stuff. So, we're not talking about the subconscious. We're not saying, what are you thinking right now? How are you thinking about this? That we can start to, in therapy sessions, bring this to the therapy session to help people. So that's one avenue. Another one I would love to do is to look at adolescents and men, look at different populations. So I have a big passion for the high school population and the middle school population. When this network connects and is mature, when the CEN is still immature, you are stuck in DMN land all day long, and that's part of why middle school sucks so much. You're starting to finally have this voice in your head. And you feel like something's gone wrong with you, but it's just that you matured into it. And so the more we can teach our kids that, that's what this is, and you're fine, you're wonderful. You don't have to feel so self-conscious. I mean, they will always feel self-conscious, but to just give them that context would, I think, support teen mental health in a big way. So I'm passionate about going that direction. So we'll see.
Nice.
We'll see where things take me. Yeah.
That is really awesome to hear. Some big dreams, when really some big inspirations coming forward, because you're looking towards educating the youth into a better, healthier mindset. And
Yes.
that is going to make the world a better place.
I think so. Totally, Keegan. Yes. Please.
Yeah, because if we treat ourselves better, then we treat those around us better. And
Yes.
it's just a cycle that should repeat itself in the positive manner, but we got stuck in that negative feedback loop. So,
I wish I had known this back then. Everything
mhm.
could have, to just then know it for a lifetime is
Oh
so
gosh.
much better than figuring it out in your 40s when you've been to hell and back,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But we need people like yourself to sit there and figure out the hard trail, and to sit there and tell other people like myself and the audience, like, hey, this is where you can actually go. Like, I've been here. These are the pitfalls. These are the traps. Let me guide you through it. And some
Yeah.
people may still like go, oh, I found a little bit of a workaround or something. But that's the things that you're helping guide an initial path to people's betterment, and that's just amazing. So
It's just what I want to do. Thank you.
yeah, I've got one more question if you don't mind.
Love it.
All right. So, Betsy, the name of this podcast is Retrieving Sanity, and we explore how all facets of living life impact mental health. Looking at the incredible motley adventures of your life, what does retrieving sanity personally mean to you today, and what's one practice or perspective you believe is crucial for anyone on that journey?
Retrieving sanity for me today means connecting into my heart and connecting into what I care most about in life and living according to that. And that to me is my most sane. And we live in a world where we often think of sane as being very objective and rational and not having feelings and all of those. But to me, being sane is actually being connected to my heart, to my feelings, to my body, and letting a lot of this thought crap go.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. So really just highlighting being grounded
Yeah.
and just figuring out who you are and staying powered in that.
Yeah. Totally.
So, everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And go to betsyholmberg.com, check out her book, Unkind Mind. And, as always, love yourself if you can, love others if you can, but you gotta love yourself first. And just stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Until then, shalom,